They're looking at the door and wondering, are they the next ones out of it? Or is the guy coming through it next the one who's going to replace me? Hi, my name is Mike and welcome to my vlog about football in general and Burnley FC in particular. A vlog that this week can confirm that I am not out injured and not in talks with another club about a transfer, at least until the release clause in my contract is met. So, what a difference a week makes. 5-0 win at home to Cardiff, cruise to victory, all is well with the world. And everything felt good, everything felt fantastic, right up until 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, when the team for Saturday's game away at Sunderland was released. And that was the point where it felt like a lot of Burnley fans with too much time on their hands and too much access to keyboards absolutely lost their goddamn minds. It's been an interesting couple of days to watch the socials and all that kind of thing. Now, what I'll do is I'll kind of talk about the transfer business first, and then I'll talk about social media more, because that's the more interesting thing. So we have a lot of players going out at the moment, a lot of players coming in, not as many coming in as are going out. And that appears to be the reason for panic for a lot of people. One of my heroes, a guy called Bill Hicks, had a quote that said, "The comedian's role is to say, wait a minute, while around in the consensus forms." And that's what it kind of feels like. I feel like I'm kind of the guy who is looking at this and going, is everyone else just absolutely losing it right now? Because we all knew that players were going to be leaving. We all knew that players we liked were going to be leaving. That is basically because we have such a bloated squad. Off the top of my head, we have 35 or something like 35 players, and we can only actually name 25 in a matchday squad anyway. So we were going to lose players, and we were going to lose players who we liked. You know, we knew that those players were going to go. And if you said to any Burnley fan at the start of June, which players are likely to leave the club in this transfer window, top of those lists will be Sander, one of Trafford or Muric, maybe both, one of Odebear or Koleosho, hopefully not both, but probably one of them. Zeki Amdouni would be another one linked away, and then maybe someone like, say, Dara O'Shea. And then last week, up until Sunday, guess what happened? Berger left, Muric left, Odebear left, Dara O'Shea left. Yet people were losing their minds, and they were losing their minds because it happened now, and they were losing their minds partly because of effect, and I'll kind of come on to that later. But we knew this was coming. You look around you and see the reaction to this on social media, and you go, hang on a second, we all knew this was coming. Okay, the timing isn't great. We'd love to have had these sales done and dusted by early July, and then you get to look forward to, you know, players coming in. But that's not how the transfer window operates. You know, there's enough, or there isn't enough time in this football season for clubs and, you know, transfer people and agents and all that to get all their ducks in a row in order to have a sane transfer window, especially when there is a tournament like the Euros going on. There are so many moving parts. There are only 89 days between the end of the Premier League season and the start of the new Premier League season, and we started a week before that. You know, so it's 82 days. That's, you know, 2 months, 3 weeks, basically, to get all your business done. Now, that's a problem with the transfer window, you know, the fact that the transfer window exists. But this kind of, like, you know, panic and all that kind of stuff, we knew this was coming. We know that we are a club that buys players to sell them. We know that the players we see now are bought to be sold, bought to be improved by their time at Burnley Football Club, and then sold on for a profit. And we have made a profit. And what's interesting is how much profit we've actually made. I think we've doubled our money on Muric. We certainly made, you know, 20 million quid or so off Odebear. I think, you know, if numbers are to be believed, and what is annoying is the club does do this undisclosed transfer fee rubbish. People know what the transfer fee is. It will always get out, okay? So forget the undisclosed transfer fee. It's a waste of time. But we knew we practically doubled our money on Berger. We have almost doubled our money on Dara O'Shea. Losing Anna Sarori hurts. It absolutely hurts. I love the guy. I love the player. He never got a fair shake last year from Vincent Kompany. He never got a chance to see whether he's Premier League quality. He never got a chance to improve. And that's unfair. But again, off the top of my head, I think we've doubled our money on Anna Sarori. Manuel Benson is another one. He's another one that goes in the regrets we've had a few, what could have been pile. If he goes, he will go with his status as a Burnley player. I hate the word legend, but I will use the word as legend. Is assured forevermore, and he will go with our very best wishes. But he again was not good enough, or was deemed not good enough, to play the Premier League, and obviously Scott Parker has either decided that he's not good enough, or he's decided he wants to leave, and at which point, well, okay, he's going to go. These were always coming. We lost a lot of players last week, and people turn around and they misrepresent things. Whoa, Burnley got rid of 7 players last week. Do you really miss Michael Obafemi, or Scott Twine, or Amin Al-Dakil? Do you really, are these vital players for the promotion push? Or are people just basically saying the first thing that comes into their head onto a keyboard and blasting it out onto the internet forevermore for thousands and hundreds of thousands of people to look at and go, God, you sound like an idiot. And I'm saying that as a guy who's on a social media channel here talking into a camera, literally talking to myself. Okay, but the reason I talk to myself is that the only answers I'll ever accept. So yeah, in summary, what has happened has been what we all expected to happen. And yet people are losing their mind. Now there are kind of, underlying reasons for this. It hasn't come out of nowhere, but ultimately never underestimate the stupid, the power of stupid people in large groups. That, this was coming. The problem is possibly the timing. And the timing is not great because the biggest game of the season happens on Saturday. That lot at home. And we don't know what the team is going to be. And them lot down the road have started all right. I believe they won the league last week, which they always do. They have a decent manager and they have a side that is what makes up his lack of talent, has got some physicality about it, has got some street smarts. Basically, it's kind of like the Dyche thing reversed at the moment. And that's going to be interesting. But it doesn't help that people are on a hair trigger. But the relationship between the club and the fans has gone sour. And what's the fun bit is, the fans are the ones blaming the club. And it isn't. The club are making mistakes right now. What doesn't help is this, they seem to approach every transfer window like a kid in a sweet shop with an unlimited budget. That basically they're just grabbing everything and then getting rid of everything they already have and grabbing whatever is the latest new and shiny. It just feels so haphazard. It feels like, what's the plan? I've been watching the Mission to Burnley 2 documentary, and it's pretty interesting. And hopefully we'll get time to talk about that this week and do a vlog. But it's kind of interesting that the data analysis guy called Lee Mooney gets so much prominence in it. He's a very interesting guy, very well spoken, clearly knows his stuff. But I can't help but think that the data analysis side of things, and the idea of data, is driving far, far too much. Now, there is a vlog I've always wanted to do, but this is a football channel. There's a vlog I've always wanted to do about the fact that spreadsheets are the worst invention that technology has ever come up with. The data analytics is a victim of the spreadsheet. Once you start looking at spreadsheets, you stop looking at reality. And that's a problem. Data will tell you certain things, but they will never ever tell you what will happen. Okay? Because people don't fit data models. Individuals, fans, clubs don't fit data models. Okay? I don't fit a data model. You don't fit a data model. So a data model will tell you things about me, but they'll never tell you how I'll react. They'll never tell you how I will think. And they will never tell you how you interact in certain situations. Because these players, come to think of it, these players with so much transfer activity going around them, they're looking at the door at Barnfield. They're looking at the door and wondering, are they the next ones out of it? Or is the guy coming through it next the one who's going to replace me? And the data analytics will never tell you whether that player will rise to the occasion or shrink to it. And they won't tell you how that will happen as a group dynamic. And that's the problem, the fundamental problem with data analytics, not in football, in life. The fundamental problem with spreadsheets. Spreadsheets can tell you numbers. They will tell you numbers to a high degree of accuracy, but they will never tell you about people, which is why you should get the hell off spreadsheets and stop trying to use them to determine what reality is, because reality always gets in the way. That's how reality works. But anyway, that's a whole new thing. Speaking of reality, the club and technology, the club to keep making mistakes. The quality of the information, the press releases, and so on that come out of the club, the information that they give you every week has got worse. There are spelling mistakes galore. You know, titles are wrong within press releases or within web pages that are put up there. Details matter. Little things matter. Little things are what people notice. I've listened to the Clarets Plus commentary this weekend, and I'm not a fan of Phil Bird. I've been honest about this. Phil Bird, he's not to my taste, but no commentator is to my taste. Okay, there are very few commentators I will listen to happily, certainly in football. Phil Bird is certainly not among the worst of that. Peter Drury, come up to me at some point and I will tell you exactly what the problem is. Peter Drury, you'll never be able to listen to Peter Drury again. Phil, as I say, not my favourite commentator, but I will not deny that he is good for the club, that he is a good commentator, and that he knows his football, he knows his club, and he's supportive of the club. But why am I paying £2.50 to listen to Phil Bird when he is clearly not commentating from the stadium? On Saturday, the background feed dropped, and we were left listening to Phil for a while, and he was commentating clearly from a room. I don't know where that room was, but it wasn't in the stadium. And I've heard that this is the case in a couple of places. Now, if this is a cost-cutting measure, Burnley FC are turning over this year £50 million. How much does it cost to send Phil Bird to games? Really, what is the saving there? Because I guarantee you that the cost of Phil Bird and a co-commentator, and co-commentators will largely do it for free, and players, past players will largely do it for free. The total cost of that commentary team has to be 2 weeks of a first team player's wage, and we've got 30 first team players. Come on. We come to social media. Now, I've been on social media, or the equivalent of social media. When I talk about social media, I talk about interactions between people on the internet, whether it be on social media apps like Twitter, forums like Up the Clarets. I have run 3 very successful forums myself. I run a very successful forum now. But before that, I was on things like Usenet. I've been on bulletin boards. I have been on the equivalent of social media, or what you would call social media now, for around about, and I'm not making this up, 35 years. And I have seen pretty much everything on social media. I've seen how people operate. I have seen the types of people. And the same types of people keep coming over and over again. And when you get to a situation like this, when you get the social media hysteria, when it comes to hysteria, people, hysteria takes a number of forms, and it takes over a group very, very quickly. That's why it's called mass hysteria. Look up the Pendle Witches. We know about the Pendle Witches. We're from Burnley. That was a case of hysteria. That was a case of mass hysteria and pointing things out. This is not a new thing. All social media does is make it incredibly easy for more and more people to get hysterical, and for more and more people to drive people into hysteria because they have an agenda. The next time this kind of thing happens around Burnley Football Club, maybe even, God forbid, if we lose on Saturday, I can tell you the personality types that will drive the social media response. I'm not going to say I'm going to tell you who. I'm going to tell you the social media types, the personality types, and you're going to be able to map those types onto the people who are doing it. Because there is nothing new under the sun. All social media is people. And the problem with social media is the most attention you get, it's a bit like life really, the most attention you get is those who shout the most negative things the loudest. And those people come to social media with an agenda. So much of the comment last week was laced with an agenda. I went on Twitter, I went on Up the Clarets, I went on a few other things, and I saw ALK coming in for pelters from people who bear grudges. They bear grudges against ALK. And it's clear that for those people, they are never going to accept ALK for a number of reasons. Maybe because of the way that they took the club over, the leverage buyout. Well, I explained how that's going to work in a couple of videos ago. Maybe it's they're not from the area. Why are these Americans coming into our local football club? For some people, it's because ALK have denied them a level of insider access that they previously had through the previous people who were at the club. And they don't like the fact that they don't have that inside access anymore, so they can go on social media with inside information and, well, I've talked about this before, be a better fan than anyone else. Now, saying that, people go, oh, you just support ALK. No, I don't support ALK. Here's the thing, I don't not support ALK either. Because trying to say ALK shouldn't have done what they did, trying to say ALK should not be in the club, well, fair enough, but that's also like trying to say water's wet. It is. Deal with it. ALK are here. Deal with it. Because if you just sit there and go, I don't want ALK in my club, fine, what are you going to do about it? Because, and I'm not encouraging this, I'm just saying, I've said this about the Glazers, I've said this about Mike Ashley, I've said this about the Oysters at Blackpool, I've said this about the Venkies. In fact, a friend of mine has actually done this. He was a big up in the Rovers fan base, and he protested against the Venkies by not giving them his money anymore. He's gone off and done something else. He walked away. And he was a guy who was home and away, proper, long time fan of the club. But he dealt with it the only way, which was he stopped giving them the money. If you're complaining about ALK, if you want them out of the club, and I'm not suggesting or supporting this or whatever, I'm just saying, if you have the principle that ALK should not be owning Burnley Football Club, why are you giving them your money every week? Why are you buying their shirt? It comes down to the same thing. Oh, you're against gambling sponsors. You're walking around with a Burnley shirt with a gambling sponsor on it. What are you doing? You know, put your money where your mouth is. Because it comes down to this. And this has become a bit of a rant. And believe me, this was going to be a lot harsher 24, 48 hours ago. But get off social media. Get off. You know, there are arguments for not being on Twitter or whatever was, you know, is called this week. Not least because it's run by a racist, homophobic, transphobe, apartheid supporting, you know, liar and narcissist and drug addict. Why are you on that, supporting him? Why are you putting yourself through this hysteria? Day in, day out, scrolling the phone all the time. And I am bad, you know, I'm bad for this. You know, I scroll the phone, you know, a lot. But there is a phrase called doom scrolling that everyone knows, you know, where you're just scrolling for the bad things. And if the reason everyone knows it is because everyone does it. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it to yourself? I left Twitter 18 months ago. You know, when Musk had one of his, I can't remember the exact one, I can't remember, it was either anti-Semitism, homophobia, transphobia, I don't care. It was like, no, I'm sorry, I am not being part of this anymore. And yeah, I read it because you can read it. I read it occasionally, but I read it once a week. I don't participate, I don't send, I don't, you know, I block advertising and all that kind of stuff. You can find me, if you look, links below, you can find me on Mastodon, you can find me on Bluesky, they're different places. I don't use Facebook, you know, because, again, you get this stuff pumped in, and you get this hysteria. The idea is to get negativity, to get clicks. And I don't want to feed that, and I don't want to feed the trolls, because there are trolls on there who 3 months ago were saying at the end of the Premier League season, we have to trim a bloated squad. And now the bloated squad is getting trimmed and they are screaming that it is happening. There were people who you could go through their profiles were saying Vincent Kompany was the second coming. And the moment he was out the door, he was the devil incarnate. And a useless manager, couldn't do anything. But you find their posts from the end of the Championship season, and you think we had the second coming of Pep Guardiola and Alex Ferguson. I thought Vincent Kompany was a good manager. I am disappointed he's leaving. On the record, I'm saying I'm tired. Didn't say he's a bad manager. Never going to turn around and slag him off for what he did. I'm on record as saying I'm not sure about Scott Parker. And I will always say I started off by being not sure about Scott Parker. And I am more than happy, and again I've said it, I am more than happy to be proved wrong. Because the problem is, when you do, football is so full of extremes, and it's encouraged. It's encouraged by social media, it's encouraged by advertisers, it's encouraged by news channels, and it's encouraged by clubs. Buy our merchandise or else you're not a proper fan. So, clubs are not immune. But you have to sort of look at it and go, what's it doing for me? What is scrolling through this negativity and this anger doing for me? Because it's not helpful. It's not helpful for the club, it's not helpful for the fan base, and it's certainly not helpful for the individual. And what I would encourage you, if you are going to stay on social media, and this is one of the nice things, little advert for Mastodon and Bluesky, it's really easy to block people. It's really easy to just cut out the negativity. And you can do it on Twitter, and I think you can do it on forums and all that kind of thing. Just cut out the noise. Because at the end of the day, people are getting there and they're screaming and they're arguing. I am guilty of this, as I was guilty of this in the past, as I'm saying that people are now. So I'm not being holier than thou. I'm not on a high horse. I'm saying from experience. I am guilty of being the one who argues. I am guilty of being the one who shouts and swears. And it doesn't lead you to a good place. It doesn't lead you to a healthy place. And since getting off for most of the day, most of the week, as I say, for the 90 minutes, I am occasionally on reading the hashtag, the club hashtag, or looking at the official club account on Twitter just to keep up. I'm not saying leave it entirely. I'm just saying I block out everybody else. Because people on there are some people on there who, if we were up 5-0 on Saturday at half time, will go on to Twitter, complain about the price of the half-time pie. Till next time, up the Clarets.